Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth, Bob Hedlund, questions about the town of Weymouth and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, here's Bob Hedlund.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Ask the Mayor. I'm your mayor and host, or I guess not host. Our host is with us, but one of the principals of the show, Ask the Mayor, and we take your questions of items of interest, ranging from serious policy to sometimes not so serious stuff. And let me explain out of the gate why I feel so low today. Evidently, I was told I look like a midget in this chair, but I'm still recovering from knee surgery, and this is about the only chair that accommodates a plank that I have that keeps my leg prostrate. Is that the word I want? Prostrate. Level and elevated slightly. So, with us, of course, is our citizen advocate / inquisitor.
Happy to be here with you once again, Mr. Mayor. How's the summer going so far?
Well, with this, not so great. This has put a crimp in my summer activities. I do nothing but eat and sit. But I know we have a lot of questions this week, so we should probably dig right in.
But let's not knock eating and sitting, if you don't mind. I've made a full lifetime out of it at this point. And for the record, for those of you who can't see the mayor's position, he has been wearing this brace that almost looks like a suit of armor, and he is not wearing it today. So I regard that as progress for you, I would say, Mayor.
Well, it's while I'm sitting. I'm able to take it off now. So.
Okay. I hope your doctor's not watching. I think it's important to start off our show on a very positive note. So everyone should be aware the questions are coming in like it's raining outside.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions.
We really appreciate all the response we've been getting, the anecdotal evidence from when we're driving down the road or stopping at a local coffee shop. The support's been amazing for the show, and the questions this week in particular are very robust. So, Mayor, getting right at it. Dear Mr. Mayor.
Didn't you want to ask
about... yeah, I did want to ask you about Chucky Chipmunk here. First of all, what type of animal is that, and what is the purpose of that commemorative piece?
I would say it's a beaver. We were joking around on a previous show about having a mascot. I think we used a paperweight at one time. And this actually is courtesy of the Weymouth Recreation Commission, and this is a Youth Conservationist Award that was presented to the Weymouth High School Junior Conservation Club by the Massachusetts Wildlife Federation in cooperation with the National Wildlife Federation and the Sears Roebuck Foundation in 1966. For outstanding contributions to the wise use and management of the nation's natural resources. So the Weymouth High School Junior Conservation Club of 1966 evidently did some good work, and maybe there is a viewer at home that was part of that and can tell us what that good work was. Clearly it wasn't paving over some of our open space at the time, but nonetheless, that's our new mascot for now.
I'm curious about the choice of the beaver because I abut conservation land where I live. I was over your house recently. You do not. But I've seen all kinds of wildlife in Weymouth. I don't ever recall seeing a beaver. Has anybody seen a beaver?
I'm sure there are, especially around our bodies of water, if you maybe around Great Pond area.
Eska.
Actually, I think probably around Whitman's Pond you might be able to find. You know what? I think I have seen a beaver over on the Birches side of the pond.
Uh-huh.
I know I've seen them in Wampatuck State Park.
Excellent.
And I saw a huge beaver dam there one time, but let's get to the questions.
Well, Mr. Mayor, first of all, I want to congratulate you on all the work that you've been doing to improve Weymouth. So, bravo.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Is that in the question, or was that your comment?
This is actually quite a substantial delivery from Carol in North Weymouth. She appreciates that she can now pick up prescriptions at Olden's Pharmacy in South Weymouth without breaking an ankle in the old parking lot. It is a work of art. But she's a lifelong resident of North Weymouth, and her neighbors feel that they're always the last ones to see improvements on their end of town. So here's the big question. Is there any way that the hill from the shelf of Regatta Road to the old beach, where the old bathhouses once stood, could be nicely landscaped? Every few years, the town cuts back on the growth only to see it return the next year. Would you be willing to really evaluate Great Hill in general and really make that a great location for people to enjoy long term instead of hearing from people like me each year? Thank you for the hard work. Signed, Carol from the 02191, in quotations, the best part of Weymouth.
Seems to be a consistent theme when you're in North Weymouth. They say, you know, South Weymouth gets the attention. Then when you're in Weymouth Landing. They say that North Weymouth gets all the attention. I remember a local official, I won't name her, but a very prolific local official yelling one time about how Weymouth, this was an East Weymouth resident, Weymouth Landing got all the money when they were talking about an MWRA mitigation project. So that's a consistent theme in town. I wish we took more of a unified approach and realized that the town is the town and we're all part of the town, but there seems to be these blocks.
Sure.
You're a South Weymouth guy, right?
Currently, but I'm East Weymouth 02188 originally.
Oh, that's right. You're off of Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were growing up, did you see those divisions? I mean, I know that there was certainly the rivalry between the high schools, but...
Sure. And I would honestly have to say that it seemed to be perpetually positioned that South Weymouth was the high end of town and that East Weymouth and North Weymouth were lesser lights. But I would say, in my experience over the course of the last...
That was the inquisitor that said that, folks, not the mayor.
But over the course of the last few years in particular, and I go up to the Hill all the time, Great Hill, there's been dramatic work that's been done up at Great Hill with all the...
As a South Weymouth guy, did you used to take your dates up there in high school?
I did my best. God love me. That was actually more of a spot. You have to remember when we were younger, the drinking age was 18. So that was more of a social spot to go up there with a cooler beer probably and hang out. And I would say it was probably more social on a plutonic sense than it was really as a makeout point.
Well, in answer to the question, there's a lot going on. As of the taping of this show, I'm going to speak a little more broadly than the shelf specifically, but we've been able to work out some issues between the Conservation Commission, Conservation Agent, and the DPW. So there will be some more enhanced landscaping done there than has been done in the past, because I think there was resistance on the part of our Conservation Department. Also, we had today, as of this taping, I was not present for it, but a site visit to the beach to pursue an initiative that our Rejuvenated Waterways Committee, which had been inactive for a while, from what I understand, is pursuing an initiative that will create a boardwalk situation to link up the beaches. So long term, we're going to have that project. We put an RFP out. We've had, I believe, an RFP or proposal for interest or something. I forget the terminology. It's not quite an RFP, but we had 41 respondents, believe it or not. 41 contractors looked at that. So we're advancing that. We expect some competitive bids. We have interest on the part of the state, the old Seaport Advisory Council, which is headed up by the Lieutenant Governor. They provide some grants for projects like that. They do have money. I have had a conversation. I've had two conversations actually with the Lieutenant Governor, who's amenable to looking at that for funding. So that will be done in conjunction, hopefully, with some additional work at the shelf.
I think everybody in North Weymouth is looking forward to it. I think across...
Then again, maybe we will actually divert those funds to South Weymouth. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
What's the name of the road? We had this conversation in the prior show. The road that goes from 3A directly up to the hill. In the past,
yeah,
I
was mistaken. In our first show, actually, we talked about that for the paving. But I did have the name of the roads correct that were being paved, but I think we provided the wrong name of the road that leads up the hill, and now I'm blanking out again.
Yeah, that's okay. From the anecdotal evidence file? Lovell.
But so does Lovell, is Lovell take an L, right? It's like an L, right?
Yeah, but it's Bradley that goes up the hill.
Well, that's the name we were looking for. Okay. Yeah, Lovell got paved, but Bradley is the road that goes up the hill. That's right.
Well, I think this has certainly been...
Thank you, WET staff, for that.
There's a variety of projects that seem to be ongoing, and all of them are for the better.
I don't want to get off track anymore, but it's true. One time I tried to give you directions, and you asked me where Pleasant Street was, right?
Perhaps. I'm the worst. I am the worst guy in the room.
That's a true story.
For street names. I've always been that way. I left town when I was 17 years old, and I didn't come back until I was close to 40. So my world comprised of Academy Avenue to Priscilla Circle and maybe up to the high school. Yes, I wasn't overly knowledgeable of the Weymouth scene. I think I remain so, quite honestly. But again, from the anecdotal evidence file, just driving around, there's all kinds of roads being paved. There's all kinds of parks that are being refurbished. Right. I think we congratulate you on the work that you've done at this parking lot in South Weymouth in particular. By the way, your road seems to be paved recently. Is that all part of the package?
My road hasn't been paved in 40 years.
What's the road? That's Broad Street. Broad Street's being paved.
No, well, we've got...
Is that middle?
I think we have a question coming up about that, too, so
we'll stay tuned, as we say here at the Ask the Mayor.
We get a lot of... There's a theme here. We get a lot of cable questions, and we get a lot of paving questions.
Well, and there's certainly, or maybe just basic DPW connected somehow, some way. Hello, Mayor Bob. This is from Stephen Navarro. He says, hello, Mayor Bob. What is the protocol in this town for adding a stop sign? I live on Next Street near the intersection of Shaw Street. There are 2 stop signs on Shaw Street meeting Next Street. A 4-way stop sign would be best. There are a lot of young kids on Next Street, and most think Next Street is a speedway. Thanks, and keep up the good work, Steve Navarro.
I will take Steve's comments. We will pass them along to our traffic engineer, who looks at these in conjunction with the police department, and they have a protocol. I won't get into it now, but between the 2 entities, they will arrive at a conclusion of whether or not it's warranted. We do have a lot of requests for stop signs.
Interesting.
A lot of people will like them in their neighborhoods, and many times they are really not applicable to kind of highway engineering standards, and we just can't go around putting stop signs up willy-nilly. So we try to not have it a political decision because someone wants one. We try to stick to the protocols that are in place. And I should say, we don't try to, we do stick to the protocols that are in place. And Quincy got in trouble with this some years ago, where there was a district councilor who, trying to be responsive to his constituents, kind of overdid it with stop signs, and there was some coverage about that in the local newspapers at the time, but we'd rather not allow any political considerations come into it. We give it to the 2 departments, and we don't provide any political interference. Let them make that decision. And I think they've done a good job. We don't want to have too many, and you want to have enough.
You know, I would say also from the anecdotal evidence file, driving around, you see a lot of homes these days buy or purchase something on their own, where, drive as if your kids lived here, or, go slow children in the neighborhood. I think those are very effective as well, when people are looking to take things, on their own.
And so the most effective is a police officer out in the street, and that's what we look to when we, hopefully building up our operating revenues, expanding our commercial tax base so we can fund police and fire and teacher positions.
Well, all good stuff. So. Eric St. Jacques has a question. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Good morning, Mayor. I really appreciate and enjoy the show. It's a great space to keep Weymouth residents informed and engaged. I'm sure it's hard to find the time to film this with all the other things that you have going on, so thank you very much. I think that's probably addressed to both of us.
That's somewhat true, but it's a nice respite. I can sit back in this low chair with my leg up and commiserate with you.
Here we go. So one curious question. I noticed in the last few months that one of the empty storefronts in Columbian Square has had some work and renovations done. There are now nice big windows, and it looks a lot better. Just being nosy, but is there any word on what might be going into that space? On a side note, as a resident of South Weymouth, I'm a big supporter of all the work you're doing in Columbian Square and look forward to the coming phases. Also, I know sometimes on the show people send you non-serious questions. Since I picked up on the fact that you're an old-school rock fan, Skinner or Allman Brothers, Mayor, what's your selection in that category? We can start with the last one first, if you don't mind. Skinner or Allman Brothers?
No, we'll get to the serious part first, because I might elaborate a little too much on the Skinner Allman Brothers thing.
All right, what's going on with that storefront? I think it's Danubio Construction that's on the job there.
Exactly right.
The building looks fantastic.
It's Jim's brother. What's
Eric?
No. What's Danubio's first name?
I'm
blanking out.
There was an Eric.
But he does great work.
Yeah.
The reason it's taking him a while on that building is, and I know this from having had my campaign office
right
next door.
Yeah.
He is working kind of on that and filling in his time around his paying jobs, which this isn't because he bought the building.
Right, he's managing on his own. I heard that.
Yeah, and I believe and it's coming out great. It's a beautiful building. It's a funky building.
Was that an old fire station?
No, that was up the street.
Okay,
but it has the same architecture as the fire station.
Cool.
And the same stone treatment, and he's done a great job. And I believe his girlfriend, if not wife, girlfriend. No, I mean I'm not sure if they're married, but it's the same woman that his partner is a hairstylist, and I think she may be moving into the first floor. That's what I heard.
Okay.
So that'll be a good addition to the square. Just the fact that the building looks beautiful now, and he does good work. So,
speaking of that square coming around, before I let you answer the rock and roll question, the big building across the street, the big white one, it's been there forever. There's a karate school in it and a travel where CC's Pizza is. He's having siding done on his building. That's been an eyesore for years. That whole square is coming around in a big way.
Want you to know that our planning department has gotten on him, and
awesome.
he has been responsive.
Dynamite.
And they are siding the building, and we were getting on him a little bit to paint it, and he's taken it a step further in siding it, so that'll help.
It's funny. It almost seems like the domino theory is applied since you repaved the parking lot. Not only you got the Irish Cottage that opened up within the last couple of weeks. I bumped into Alyssa Montilio this morning. Montilio's doing an amazing job and an awesome spot, and of course the Jankford's doing an amazing business there too.
Well, we had a meeting last week with the Columbian Square merchants with Walk Boston. We had another meeting last night that our planning director participated. A lot going on with Columbian Square. More on that in future shows. But we're hoping we can get Phase 1B and Phase 2 going.
It's all moving forward.
In the second part of the gentleman's question.
Allman Brothers of Skinner.
What was his name again? Eric?
You got Eric, exactly. St. Jack's.
You have a friend named Jax.
Billy Jax, Tony Jax.
So
you pronounced it Jax.
Is it spelled the same way?
It is, as a matter of fact. Jacques, as in Francais. Your assistant just came back from Quebec City. There's a French element to our show now.
So you should know how to pronounce it. If you have a friend
Jacques. Yeah, it's Billy Jax. It's Jax and Jax. I'm European by my nature.
But no relation that you know of.
It's St. Jax. I don't think Billy and Tony Jax are not saints. I can say that for sure.
Oh, it's St.
Neither was
so
Michael.
anyway, I've seen both acts live.
As have I.
A friend of mine, when he went to UMass, booked the Allman Brothers, and we snuck in.
Wait, but you weren't at that show. That I went to UMass. The summer concert in '79 was Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead, and Bonnie Raitt. That was our summer concert.
No, it was later. '79, my friends were not college age yet, Jim. So it was after that. But I remember I had these ugly gold corduroy pants. Who wears corduroys anymore, right? And we snuck under the fence, and I shredded them climbing underneath the chain link fence at the facility at UMass.
Ouch.
But anyway, the very first concert I ever saw, and I wasn't even old enough to drive, we hooked a ride down to the Cape Cod Coliseum in the dead of summer in August. It was extremely hot. The Cape Cod Coliseum was notorious for how hot it got in there for events.
Yeah.
And I saw the original lineup, the Ronnie Van Zant lineup of Leonard Skinner.
Oh, man.
And I've never seen anything that recreated it. I had the opportunity to meet the band in 1993.
Washington Collins, or they still toured?
When they got back together and reformed after a while, and I think they reformed for a couple of one-offs in '89, but by '93 they were pretty much out there again. I had the chance to meet the band backstage at the Orpheum. Johnny Van Zant had taken over, after the plane crash.
Yeah.
In 78 was the plane crash. But Leonard Skinner in the heyday, and even in some incarnations I've seen them lately in the last 20 years, over the Allmans any day. And I like their style. They got me into... Skinner was my gateway from WRKO Top 40
Dale Dorman
into more hard rock. Leonard Skinner One More from the Road. People are going to think this is a loaded question, and it isn't. Leonard Skinner One More from the Road was the first album I ever bought, along with Bachman Turner Overdrive, Best of BTO. And that album, that live album by Skinner, grabbed me, and it led me into rock and roll.
Yeah, that was something else.
Phenomenal album.
And about it.
That show at the Cape Cod Coliseum was insane. Totally insane.
God, that was the home of the Outlaws for years, speaking of Southern rock. But as far as your Allman Brothers and Skinner, I think, because I am the old man in the group, I got you by a year or two. I think the Allman Brothers were probably for the generation before us, too. Maybe
they're
kids
more of a jam.
Yeah, well, but they're like people
Skinner,
5 or 6 years older than us. I think Skinner was our kind of Allman Brothers at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I remember being in junior high school, and a guy walked in one day with a Leonard Skinner tour shirt. I was like, whoa, look at that. It had the baseball with the gun wrapped around the baseball. It was crazy. It was a pretty funky logo that they had at the time. But, they really set the stage for Southern rock bands, and everybody that followed them, like Molly Hatchet.
Yeah, like I said, the Outlaws, certainly.
Outlaws kind of preceded them maybe a little bit, but I think that they would have changed the course of music a little bit had they survived in the original lineup longer, because they were a pace setter.
They were something else.
So obviously the answer to that question was Skinner.
All right, listen, Jason Thayer, who's written in the past, has got another question for you. Rumor has it that legislation tried to pass an official state song.
Oh.
If so, have you heard? What comes to mind for him, anyway, would be the Zoo from a band called the Scorpions. Not sure if you're familiar with them, but just a guess and a rumor. Thank you, Mayor.
I think so we don't lose viewers, we need to space out these music questions a little bit. The Zoo is a great song, but no, I'd stick with Roadrunner by Jonathan Richman.
Wasn't Marty Walsh trying to do Roadrunner?
He was the House sponsor. I was the Senate sponsor,
Oh,
yes.
no kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys put it together. Wasn't Marty Walsh in town recently, as a matter of fact?
We failed. Marty couldn't get it out of the House and send it over to me.
Oh, so we officially, do we have a state song in Massachusetts?
We have plenty of different genres of state songs. We
Okay.
don't have an official state rock song. We have a folk song. We have an official polka,
Doesn't Arlo Guthrie have a song, official Massachusetts song?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm not. You're the folk guy. You should know that.
But I'm not that folky. We'll have to call James Taylor, see if we can get him to write something for us all. All right, so we're moving forward.
Weymouth doesn't have an official song. Maybe we should.
I've heard there's a great one out there. Listen, what's interesting.
And by the way, we wouldn't have. It wouldn't make sense in answer to Mr. Thayer's question to have an official state rock song done by a German band. It doesn't make sense.
It's like anybody's watching America's Got Talent lately. It's all the acts are from someplace else. Nobody's from America. And it's America's Got Talent. All three of the judges are from someplace else, too. Listen, we're going to go from a conversational perspective to offering a graphic up. Can you guys zoom in on this? Because this certainly caught my eye in a new addition to the mayor's desk. I have a question for you, Mayor, and I'm sure everybody else would want to know who saw this red stamp. It says no deal, if these guys can zoom in on this. It's Mayor Headland's no deal. So is this unique to your office? I don't think I've seen something like this before on a politician's
The history
desk.
on that is at the height of the Spectra mitigation discussion when the significant amount of money, $47 million, was on the table from Spectra.
Yeah, I recall.
That was sent to me by someone opposed to the deal, and he said, here, use this stamp, but you should first use it on Spectra's offer. And it says on it, Mayor Headland, no deal. And actually, the guy, he was very creative. He had written to me a couple of times. I told him he needed to do some volunteer PR work for us on this anti-Spectra effort because he had some creative ideas, and that was pretty creative. He lives in Quincy, though, but he didn't take me up in the offer. We were going to see if we could get some pro bono PR work out of him. But that was his idea, and it was pretty clever.
Just because you brought it up?
But I use it on other things.
It's certainly, I'm sure, remains top of mind with so many. Any news of note regarding Spectra or updates relative to the showdown at the OK Corral?
I'm not sure where we left off in the last episode on Spectra-related questions, but our effort to have a comprehensive review done of the two projects and have them viewed as one project was rejected by the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, Matthew Beaton. Our hope now, and it's really probably the most significant chance we have of stopping the project from a local effort in terms of permitting, is through Coastal Zone Management, another agency that Secretary Beaton oversees, and that would be on the Chapter 91 Waterways Permit application that dictates that this be a water-dependent use. So I'm not confident, given where we think he's coming from generally on these projects, but that would be the one tool locally from a permitting standpoint that we really have. Right. And then when if we're not successful there, clearly FERC has been it'll be really decided at the federal level at that point. And FERC can overrule a CZM decision like that anyway, but that would be our one real shot at this locally.
Does the Obama administration, is it relative to what could or couldn't happen down there? If a new president comes in, could that affect anything?
That's a great question, yeah. I'm not sure what the terms are for the FERC board members who make this decision. They're 5 members. The current board was all appointed by President Obama,
right?
Obviously, over the period of his 8 years. I don't know the length of the terms, and that's a really good question, but I'm guessing that some of these positions in D.C. with the terms would run into the next president's term.
And that seems to be reasonable. So
but, like everything else when it comes to overseeing our Food and Drug Administration, overseeing Department of Agriculture, it's usually the fox guarding the chicken coop on all of these regulatory bodies anyway.
Okay.
So I wouldn't suspect that would change with either administration, considering that in D.C. there's not much of a difference between the parties when it comes to the inside stuff. They may talk about social issues and rah at their conventions to get their partisans fired up, but behind the curtain, they're all in cahoots So it doesn't really matter.
Well, everybody's got their fingers and toes crossed, I think, on that one. So everybody's just behind you and wishing you luck.
Not to be too cynical, but...
Well, every problem has a solution, as I know we all know. Well, from Matty Simmons, hello, Mr. Mayor. I love the park improvements
Would that be
around
Simons by
Is it
chance?
Simons? Am I pronouncing it right? It could very easily could be. It's
Okay.
S-Y-M-O-N-D, yeah. Are you friendly with Matt?
Only through social media.
Yep. I think Matt is very active in the South Weymouth on a lot of levels. And
Very active in town.
hello, Mr. Mayor. I love
A voice of reason on social media, I might add.
Oh, wonderful, Matt. God love you. I love the park improvements around town, especially Gifford Playground on Thicket Street. I was wondering if you could give the audience a little background on how these park improvements are funded. Also, the signs are beautiful. They look like some of the signs that I see at the schools and playgrounds when driving around Hingham. Are there any plans to update the signs at the schools to look similar to the playground signs? Thank you very much, Matt Simons.
Generally, it's funded through the meals tax. There was a decision made in this town before my arrival that the meals tax would be...
What is that, 0.5%? Something like that.
I forgot the percentage
yeah, no problem.
now.
That's all right. It's 1%, 0.5%. It's not a lot of dough.
You got me off guard on that one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, when towns adopt it, they can choose their rate up to, I think it was up to 2.5% or something.
Okay.
I know that Weymouth gets a lower percentage when they approved it than Hingham, for instance, had voted in on their end. But it was a concerted decision made at the time that the meals tax would be earmarked for park improvements.
I remember.
Now,
so that's actually being applied. It's all going in that direction.
Yeah,
and
the
we're seeing some
problem
great
now
stuff.
that I face and subsequent mayors will face is that when Legion Field was done, that was a bonded project. We borrowed for that project. The previous administration borrowed for that project. And the meals tax revenue was earmarked to pay for the debt service
bond,
on that.
yeah.
And that is a lengthy bond. What gave us a little flexibility in the current fiscal year is that for the first year of that bond, only interest payments would do. So we had a little money left over, and that was applied to some additional park improvements. Now, some of these were in the pipeline before we got here, and some weren't. So, but it's allowed us to get caught up on a lot of town parks. So that's the short answer.
Dynamite, yeah, and they're all looking good, too. I think we're cruising to our final question, Mayor, as we look to conclude another episode of Ask the Mayor, and this one's a little bit on the fun side, and we have a prop for this one because my buddy Brian Sullivan wrote in, "Hey Jimmy, is that a midget under the podium with Mayor Bob in the photo behind you? That photo traditionally is off to our left. Brian Sullivan now resides on Rosemary Lane, a former resident of Academy Avenue, the address for the town hall. So, who is in that photo, Mayor, and what's going on
Brian
there?"
Sullivan a prolific photographer
Yeah,
himself?
Brian's fantastic. He's on the venue quite a bit, too. Yeah, Brian's a great guy.
Good guy. I know him through a little Philadelphia Phillies connection, but I didn't know what the question. I don't know what the question meant when it came in. We were looking at it,
God
and we were
Mary
puzzled.
Heinrichs, once again.
I said, "Who is the midget in the background?" I had no idea what he was talking about.
We're scouring your room, and all of a sudden,
And
Mary
it took WETC staff to figure this out. But this is an old picture in answer to Mr. Sullivan's question that was taken of me with my son in my days in the Senate at the Cohasset Healing Field, which is they have a ceremony Memorial Day weekend. It usually takes place the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, and they have a beautiful display of flags. It's called the Healing Field, and a ceremony on Saturday. It was started by the commander of the VFW down there, Tom Wigmore, a guy about our age who sadly passed away last year of cancer.
Oh, geez.
But they've kept the tradition alive, and they do a great job down there. Another great Veterans Council, along with Weymouth and some others on the South Shore.
It's a great photo of you and John. Who
Yeah,
we
that's actually a picture that ran in the Cohasset Mariner.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, listen, as we look to conclude, we want to remind everybody, thank you so much for all the questions that come in. Please keep them coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com. Askmayorbob@gmail.com. Everything's in bounds. Nothing is out of line. And we are very grateful, once again, everybody tuning in and spent a little bit of time with our Mayor of Weymouth, Robert Hedlund. I'm Jim Melody, the Citizens Advocate, reminding you to stay tuned for I Dream of Jeannie.
And I hope Mr. X isn't mad about this part of the question.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.